Sahajaste means natural in me affirms natural in you. Because when we flow with our natural, our life becomes like a river. It is not anymore puddle, a marsh, or a little stream which will dry up. In last few days, we took a journey, an adventure of consciousness, as Satprem will say. Satprem was a great student of Sri Aurobindo and his spiritual partner, Mother. And we started this adventure with healthy ego or social intelligence. We stabilized our ordinary life to enjoy everything of this world. This world is not illusion. This world is not Maya. And we will discover how. But once we are only confined to this ordinary world, that becomes a problem, because then we take it, this partial truth, as the whole truth, and we suffer. So that is how we started, and then we enter into our personality and personal intelligence. Little vibration, little light of ours. And in search of that light, we entered into existential intelligence crisis, the dark night of our soul, stripped off of all the layers of our ego or identity. We healed ourselves and emerged on the other end with integrative intelligence. We found our own light, the music of our life, song of our being. And after that, it's never going to be darkness, because we are with our inner guru, inner father, inner mother. But still, it was limited. We became from a person to individual. Person, the word comes from persona, the mask. We were wearing the mask of our background, of our culture, of our society. We tore that mask and we became authentic and natural in integrative intelligence. But that was not enough, so we expanded. We became universal or cosmic intelligence, what is commonly misnamed as God. Because this universal or cosmic intelligence is not only positive, kind, merciful, giver of the benediction, treasures of life, joy, peace, creativity, all our capability, but it also contains all the destruction, all the evil, all the violence, all the death. And according to the tendency with which we are born means the way our brain is wired. Because each one of us is born with a different brain. Although it is brain, but it's differently wired. And according to that wiring, because whatever we perceive in this cosmic intelligence depends on that unique wiring. That is why we can become a Rabindranath Tagore, we can become a Swami Vivekananda, we can become a Mozart, a Vincent van Gogh, we can become a Leonardo da Vinci, or we can become a Ramana Maharshi. Why so different? Because we are born with uniquely wired brain, a neural pattern. And according to that neural pattern, we connect to this cosmic intelligence. So we can become creative, we can become a saint, we can become a sage, we can become dictators, a Hitler, or we can become a Gandhi or a Lincoln or Mandela. Because we have unique wiring. But even this cosmic intelligence is not enough, because something in us, in spite of achieving everything, is longing for something which has no boundary. So even this cosmos, the whole universe, is not enough, because still it is within the boundary of space and time. It is full of experiences, but all experiences, as we discovered, has limitation of time and space. Any experience. That is why sometimes people say, teachers say, go beyond your experiences. And what is needed for an experience is duality. So from ego and identity to this cosmic intelligence or God is the world of duality. Although we move from the known of the ego to the unknown of our individuality and this universal intelligence, but it is still duality. It is still the world of experience. Let's understand a little bit about it. In order to experience anything, even to experience God, we need an experiencer, which I am, a subject, and experienced means whatever I am experiencing. So in this moment, I as a subject, Jivasu, is looking at the computer screen. So here is the subject, computer screen is the object or experience, and what connects us, myself, Jivasu, and the computer is experience. So you can see, for any experience we need two duality. So even if Meera is absorbed in Krishna, still there is a two. Meera is a devotee. She can become a beloved, and the Krishna is the lover. Because in bhakti, they're always two, because that is the joy of bhakti, which is wonderful. But that is not the peak. So any experience is about duality. And duality truly is triplicity, because as I said, subject, me, computer, object, and our relationship, which is experience 3. So beautifully represented in Shiva's trident, Trishul, in Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, 3 goddesses. So 3 is so important. But still, it is not the world, the realm, or the dimension of oneness. So what happens beyond this cosmic intelligence, because there is a longing for that non-duality, because that is the original peak nature. And this longing is not of mind but the whole being to reach what is ours. But quite often we are lost in substitute satisfactions, as I described. We replace this longing, this impulse, with the worldly things. And we think, yes, we are experiencing that oneness. Actually, it doesn't happen, because that experience gives us a very transient satisfaction, and then again the longing comes. That is why there is no enduring fulfillment. So what happens in this total longing, in this state of godliness, of cosmic intelligence? The boundary is shattered. The boundary which contained the experience, whole God experience, creativity, mass, energy. And once the boundary are shattered, all the contents are emptied out. No boundary, no contents. No boundary means non-dual. Because there are no contents, there are no experience, so these 2 or 3, the observer, the observed, and the observation, they collapse into one. That is a state of non-duality. And when they collapse into one, there is no observer or observed or observation. That whole relationship disappeared. That is why non-duality is irrelational, without any relationship. All other stages of our awareness, of our intelligence, they contain relationship. This is irrelational. And irrelational means completely independent, absolutely free. Because when I am in relationship with anyone, directly or indirectly, I am dependent on that person. Because in that relationship, my definition depends on other person. So I am Jivasu. I am Jivasu because there are other people who are not Jivasu. I am a man because there are others who are not men. They may be women or something else. I am a medical doctor because others are not medical doctor. So my doctrine, my gender, my identity is conditioned, is dependent on that relationship. Otherwise, I cannot define myself. Do we understand that? So whatever we are in this world, we are dependent on others. This is called conditioned. Conditioning. Interdependent, interconnected world is conditioned world. We mutually are interdependent because we are in relationship with each other. But what happens when there is no observer, observed and observation, when there is no time and space, everything becomes one. But Indian sages didn't call it one, they call it non-dual. Why they call it not dual? Not two, but they never said it's one. Because they don't want to define it, compare it. Because once you say one, one means we are defining this one in relation to two. It becomes again conditioned. So they say it is not two. But beyond that, we don't know. Whether it's one or not is yours to discover. So that is why non-duality. And this non-duality is unknowable. Known was the word of ego and social intelligence. Unknown was the word of integrative intelligence and cosmic intelligence. Now it is the realm of unknowable. We can only know which is limited. If something is unlimited, infinite, how we can reach the other shore of the infinite? It is an impossible. It's like we are standing on the beach of an ocean which has no boundary. What we can do? Only we can put our two palms in this ocean, drink its nectar, our thirst will be quenched, but we can never ever know the entirety and totality of this ocean. That is why it remains unknowable. In this non-dual state, a mystic is not an individual who knows the mystery. Because if I know the mystery, it is no more unknowable. Nobody can ever know the mystery of this non-dual state. We can live with the mystery. So the definition of mystic is who doesn't know the entire mystery, but who lives with this mystery. It is also called pure consciousness. Why pure consciousness? Because there are no impurities left of experiences. Experiences may be negative, experiences may be positive. From non-dual point of view, either negative or both positive are corruption and contamination of this state. That is why it is called pure, without contents, empty, absolute, unconditioned. Patanjali called it Kaivalya, absolute aloneness. Only Brahm is, only Purusha is, only pure consciousness is. Kaivalya. That is what is this state of non-duality. A complete, absolute sense of tranquility, serenity. It is the state of absolute awareness without any relationship, and because it doesn't depend on relationship, it is unconditioned. Quite often we say mother loves her child unconditionally. Wrong. Mother can never love her child unconditionally. There is a condition, there is a mother and there is a child. Sometimes we say a pet, a dog loves the owner unconditionally. Completely wrong, because there is a relationship. Unconditional means A relational, without relationship, absolute aloneness, the sense of absolute amness, isness. There is no other because there is no duality. But is this truly the peak intelligence about which I mentioned? In last 1000 years, most of the Indian mind is trying to aspire for this. But it became detached from the world because world became Maya. Brahm Satya Jagat Mithya, so said Shankaracharya. And with that came the 10 sects of sannyasis, the celibates, the monk. Is that truly the peak intelligence? Yes, it is non-dual. A great achievement of the human consciousness. But what I say, peak intelligence, it is not complete yet. Yes, I got nirvana, I got pure consciousness, I got Kaivalya, but then I left the world because the world of non-duality is so pristine, is so pure, so blissful, so tranquil. I don't want to come back to the ordinary world. That is why the world of non-duality, whatever it is, whatever Shankaracharya said, it is not a complete world. How many people can become sannyasi? How many people can become celibate? 1% population of the world is asexual. That means approximately 7 million people, they don't experience sex, and yes, they can preach and teach celibacy. Can it apply to 99% people? No. And that is why we suffer through the teachings of these great ones. Because we cannot follow that, because our fundamental nature is sexual, sensuous, sensual. So that is why this world of non-duality isn't complete. And so many people who teach and preach this non-duality, supposed to be desire-led, supposed to be celibate, supposed to be left everything, some of our contemporary gurus, but if you really look at them, they created empires. Is that truly desirelessness? Is that truly the unconditional living? No. Whatever they teach, whatever they preach, they don't follow. And we also put the same goal. So in peak intelligence state, we achieve non-duality, and then we come back to the world. We come back to the body because in this non-dual state, finally our body becomes free. Before that, it was in turmoil because of our emotions and thoughts and suffering. There is so much research available about mind-body medicine that each emotion we think, each thought which we are thinking affects our body. So our body was not truly the real body, natural body. It was the virtual body projected by our thoughts and emotion. But what happens in this non-dual state, we come back to the body which is functioning with its natural rhythm. It is not going beyond body, it is not discarding body. It is affirming in this state the body, because body is the only living thing which we have. Our thoughts and emotions, they belong to our past or future, but body lives in this moment. So in peak intelligence of naturality, we return to the body. And by returning to the body, we return to the earth and nature from where this body came, the five elements which are present in nature. That is why we are disconnected from the nature, because we are disconnected from the body. So in this peak intelligence state, we return to the body, we return to the nature, we return to the earth, and we affirm everything of this world, our emotions, our attachment, our desires, our thoughts, our love, everything of this world. There is nothing out of place. They are all real, they are not illusory. Only thing is that because they dominate, they become like a cancer. They sap up our energy. But in peak intelligence, we come from the highest non-duality to this very ordinary world and affirm it. And what happens? Everything falls into its natural rhythm. Our desires, our longings, our attachment, our enjoyment. Can I deny my love and attachment towards my daughter, my wife, my husband? Can I leave my job which I love? Are my emotions fall? They are a problem if they are the only one. But in this infinite movement of life, my thoughts, my emotions, my attachment, my desire, they fall into beautiful rhythm. Was Ramakrishna Paramhans without desires, or a Vivekananda, or Shri Aurobindo? None of those. Only thing is, because they were functioning in a natural way, so everything was in right proportion. Of course, I need thoughts to cook food, to earn my livelihood. I cannot become a sannyasi. Of course, if I have children, I have to attach to them. But that attachment has to be according to natural rhythm. If that attachment becomes excessive, becomes a problem, should I be celibate? How I could be? Because nature gave me sexuality, sensuality, sensuousness. I have to celebrate that nature. I have to enjoy. I have to dance with the whole world. That is why I will never say I am that. That is the title of a beautiful book, I am that. I will say I am that, I am this also. So just like living in an ordinary world, ordinary family person, doing some ordinary job, all is affirmed because ultimately all is one and non-dual. If I separate this world, this universe into two, again this is not truly non-dual. That is why in peak intelligence we say Shakti Chit Anandam Purnam, not pure, Purn, complete. Pure wants to leave impure, reject impure. In Purna, the pure and impure, they are the part of the movement, non-dual movement. Shakti means force, energy, Prakriti, which created this limitless pattern in our world. Awesome, wonderful, profound, ever-changing, ever in flux. We affirm that Shakti, but we affirm Chit, the consciousness of it. Shakti, Chit, Anandam, Once we become aware of these patterns we are enjoying, then it gives us a bliss. And that is where it becomes Purna, full and complete. Shakti Chit Anandam Purnam. And that was very much the part of Vedic sages. That is why from Isha Upanishad comes, from my point of view, the most profound mantra, a complete mantra ever composed. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnmadaya Purnasya Purnmadaya Purniva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The meaning is that is complete and full. Purnamada. Purnamadam. This is also full and complete. And this fullness and completeness came from that fullness and complete. And when this fullness, completeness came from that fullness and completeness, still that remains full and complete. This is the ultimate affirmation. This is not non-dual intelligence. This is peak intelligence. Because in these moments of peak intelligence is born peak health and peak spirituality. What is intangible is affirmed, what is tangible is affirmed. What is out there is experienced, what is here is experienced too. All is real, nothing is illusory. But the level of reality is different. Ego has its own level, personality has its own level, existential crisis has its own level, integrative intelligence has own level, and then cosmic intelligence and non-dual. Combinedly, they are one single movement of life, nothing to be discarded. Only thing a celibate must follow his or her own nature. And so is the 99% world. We should never try to become somebody else. Because if we follow others, we will miss ourselves. Learn but not follow. Because that is the only way to reach to the peak of our existence, of our life in totality, celebrating, dancing forever. Everlasting bliss with all its sorrow, which can never become suffering anymore. So with that, I will conclude this session and also this series which we explored. Please write your questions and I will respond to them later. Sahajasti means when everything falls into its natural rhythm, nothing is out of place. And I affirm in me, I affirm in you.